Muito boa tarde a todos. Eu espero uns segundos até que encontrem os vossos lugares. Vamos iniciar, portanto, o nosso programa da parte de tarde. Antes de mais, eu sou Manuel Carvalho, sou jornalista. É um prazer estar aqui convosco. É, como estava um bocado a dizer, que é, até certo ponto, uma causa cívica participar neste evento, desta instituição tão importante para a nossa região e para o nosso país. E, portanto, neste momento da tarde, nós vamos contar aqui com, enfim, três períodos essenciais. Vamos ter as experiências de outros países. Vamos ter aqui, portanto, umas apresentações do Dr. Christer Nordström, que é CEO da SIX da Suécia. A SIX é um instituto também de interface da Suécia. O professor Dr. Georg Rosenfeld, do conhecido Fraunhofer. E também o professor Túlio Tólio, que é o presidente do ITIA, que é um instituto também primo, digamos assim, do nosso INESC TEC. Seguidamente, há um debate no qual se vai discutir as formas de aperfeiçoar o modelo, que é antecedido por uma intervenção, portanto, do professor António Serra. E nesse debate vão estar presentes o engenheiro Alberto Barbosa, o Dr. Manuel Carlos, que é o presidente da APICAPS, o Alberto Barbosa é membro do Conselho Superior do Grupo EDP, e também o Dr. Miguel Stilwell. Haverá depois também um testemunho vídeo por parte do professor José Carlos Príncipe, que não pode estar connosco, e, finalmente, e para isso apelo a todos o máximo de economia de tempo que seja possível, era bom que nós tivéssemos 45, 50 minutos para fazermos uma espécie de debate, de síntese sobre aquilo que foi este dia aqui. Para isso, eu também dou o meu contributo, não perco mais tempo. Our warm welcome to all of you. I think that we should begin with Dr. Christer Nordström, and 15 minutes, more or less.
Okay, I'll try to keep that. Thank you very much for the introduction. I think you hear me well. I'm that kind of guy that needs to walk to talk. That's also my management principle. Thanks for inviting me, and congratulations to these 30 years from Sweden, SIX, Swedish Institute of Computer Science. I will give a... it's not my phone, I think. Okay. So I will give some reflections about a research institute and their roles, and I will give it from my view in Sweden, of course. But I will not give it like a structural presentation. I will give it as it is right now, and what we see and the challenges we have, and how do we address these challenges. So this is the agenda. If we look today, we see a lot of sort of forces that are very strong in society. The first one is digitalization. And before we could say that digitalization or globalization, now a wrong picture is coming up, but the globalization we know. Then the digitalization, and that is something really strong thing that is happening right now. Before we could say IT is a tool, you can use it or not. Today, we really have to act upon this, because a lot of things happen all the time which change society, it change business, it changed the way we operate. I will come back to that. We also see that we have a huge and environmentally pressure right now. Everybody is a bit worried, what shall we do, etc. And I will come back to this picture. And what we see today is, of course, we see this refugee crisis in Europe, not in Europe, but the refugees coming to Europe. In the future, yes, in a couple of years, I suppose we will see climate refugees. We will see a lot of things happening now in the future. And together with this digitalization, the change in business and all things, it's very, very dynamic right now. If you just look at this picture, I think this is, you have maybe seen it before, but it's, I mean, Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles, and so forth. And you see this kind of middle man coming in many businesses. So something is happening right now. And what we really see today is that sort of product business is gravitating towards services with a rapid pace. If we see at the outlook right now, we see that the businesses are extremely data-driven right now. What do we mean by data-driven? You know, of course. But this autumn I was in Silicon Valley, and then I visited a Swedish guy that was head of marketing, you can say, but they didn't call it marketing at Airbnb. Do you know Airbnb? Have you used it? A lot of young people have used it, I'm sure. It's very good. And Airbnb, what do? They visualize unused resources in a good way, and they have set some rules around that. But if you look at the marketing at a company like that, he was responsible for the growth department. And they're thinking, how does it look like? My experience is sitting in industry. I've been working for ABB in many years. My previous position in industry was as manager in ABB Robotics. And what did we do? We hired a lot of sort of get suggestions from different marketing companies. And then we selected the one we really believed in. But the way that Airbnb is working is hypothesis-driven. So the team, assuming a task like getting 1 million more customers, it was a programmer, it was a designer, and it was a mathematician, analyst. And they started to work together. And what did they do? They formulated a hypothesis, they divided the market, they tested it, implemented it, and see what's happening. And if it took off, then the incentive system they have created was working. And if it didn't work, it tested something else. So the yes did it in an iterative loop, and it's data-driven, not what I believe or think. It's about what is really happening. And we see that we see a huge lack of competence in industry today, and I think it's the same in complete Europe. We see, for example, you're looking for people in the security business today, so you need to have security. And what is the reason that security is so important today? Of course, it has happened a lot of accidents, and it's on the board of all companies, security. And then, of course, the CEO of a company knows that if I can't handle this really good, then I will get fired. That's the simple reason. And the awareness is extremely high, but we have not that much competence about how to handle that today. So too little people educated. We see also that many big companies today, or companies overall, focusing so much on operational efficiency. And I suppose it's the same here. You do things more and more efficient. You have to continue with that, of course. But in the future, what you really have to do, you have to be agile, you have to adapt fast to the changing market situation, etc. And something that I think is really interesting when we're talking about the role of institutes or universities is that we are really used and have a good knowledge in working with networks. So, for example, a person that was born in born in the 20s, had a Master of Science in the 40s. That person had their life income. A person that had their sort of thesis finished in, say, in 80s, 90s, should have their thesis, but they needed also to have a network. And in the 90s, 20s, they need to have a network and create value out of network. And today, I think it's about how do we create value out of sort of networks, manage that. And the ones that are successful in that, they're the winners today. And it's very easy to get networks working for you if what you're doing is really meaningful, it's ethical, and it's fun. And that is really important. When I was starting my career in industry, then I got the first message, what is the real objective of working for this company? Is to create shareholder value. Of course, But that you can't say that today. That's not the thing if you're going to recruit talents. So let us continue. If we see Sweden from a system perspective, you know, Sweden has been a very stable country for many, many years. What we see now is that we go from a very stable system in society to a very dynamic system. The system we have today is not constructed for rapid change. And now we are in huge pressure, I mean, as I said before. So we need to transform. A lot of ad hoc solutions, slow change to rapid change, social cohesion to social gaps. And when we have this start to get bigger and bigger social gaps, what's happening then? Then the society become a bit sort of unsecure, and you know, people, and you see phenomena that you have never seen before. And this is scary. The rich people becomes just richer and richer, and the poor people gets poorer. So the total gap is becoming bigger, and that creates something in society. And I'm not a politician or anything like that, but it's just observations. And if you read the literature. And of course, urbanization is also in a small country. I mean, Sweden is like Portugal. But today I would say we have around Stockholm we have a lot of people, around Gothenburg we have a lot of people, around Malmö we have a lot of people. But besides that, it's almost empty. And the people that's living in these small places is mostly elderly people. The young people, they move to the cities. So everything is getting into some digital anxiety. Have you heard that word before? I think it's quite good. That you see in all kind of businesses today. How should we handle the situation we are in? I'm an expert in creating digital anxiety. I can give a presentation about all the fantastic things you can do with digital solutions, but what you create then in most industrial companies is some kind of, oh my God, what is happening? And the question is not what to do, it's how to do it. How do we help these companies or even public organizations to do this digital transformation that we're really in the middle of, I would say. And that's in all Europe, I would say. How to master change, that is important. And there I think we have an enormous role in how to master this change from academy, but especially from the industrial institutes. So what is SIX then? We have around 160 people working for us. We have offices around in Sweden. We have a lot of academic collaboration, and we're owned by the Swedish government to 60% and 40% by industry. And we have an enormous amount of customer. And then I use the word customer because that can be very provocative. We do applied research and we focus on value creation. And we also have quite a lot of spin-offs coming from us. I will coming back to the spin-off issue because it's important. So what we do is, the objective is to create industrial value and value in society. And the tool is research. The objective or the main focus is not to do research. The objective is to create value. And traditionally, 5 years ago when I visited our customer partners, I typically met a high-tech company, say Ericsson. I met some product manager or a development manager or product leader, and we defined a product. Today, when I meet a company, an industrial company, I do not meet the development manager or product leader. I meet them also, but I meet the management team. Do you know why? It's not because I have become more important or anything like that. It's because the digital transformation is changing the business models. And then it's affecting the business. And then it's not about technology anymore. Just to give a very, very simple explanation for this. Assume that you're a car manufacturer. And this year it's coming a new car. It has a bit more horsepower. The fuel consumption went down a bit, etc. Will that change the business model? No, it will not. But if you transform your business from sort of selling products to selling, for example, transportation instead, that we will see in the future, for example, in the automotive industry, then it's changing your business completely. And that's why I meet so many sort of CEOs, presidents, marketing directors, etc. So it's also, and the second thing is that 5 years ago, only met high-tech companies. Today, I meet companies like IKEA. What? IKEA, are they into the digital business? No, but they will in the future. So they start to selling much, much more services. I think they will sell not a bed, they will sell sleep instead. Maybe, I don't know, hopefully. And when we're working now with our customer partners coming to us and then saying something like, okay, we have this challenge and we don't know how to solve it. I mean, with our own personal. Then we use our networks globally all the time. And that is what we need to do. So often you say, if we can't solve it, no one else can't solve it either. And then I mean by solving it, finding that person or that organization that knows the solution to this problem. So that should be in the skill set of an institute, really. If we look at our portfolio, we have like 1/3 is products coming directly from industry or public sectors where we send an invoice. And you can say, is that consultancy? We never compete with consultancy firms. We do tasks that's typically pre-development or it's some kind of advanced pre-studies, or we do this task when there are no one else that can do it. So that is important also. And then we have like applied research, European Union products and funded by Swedish government, etc. And then, of course, we have some speculative research that is important, I think, to have. So this figure is not that. See if I can. Okay. If you look at before, I would say just 4 or 5 years ago, we were working with this sort of, verticals with very deep areas. Like in this sense, I mean, we're big data analytics, very, very deep, and AI, etc., very, very deep. But what is happening now is that we're changing quite radically. We're working quite a lot with application areas. And we have, like I will show you later, a number of application areas where we really understand the domain. And then when we look at the projects we're running like 300 projects per year. And it's so much. But what we're working with is with our core competence in the intersection between. So we can use the same technology in automation or automotive for, say, data-intensive computing. And so what we're doing right now is that we recruit a lot of really talented project leaders, architects. Before we had only scientists that were really deep in their areas, but now we need to really integrate this. So typical people start working for us, could be a former CTO for a company, and that kind of sort of experience. And as you know, in the sort of being a really good project leader, for example, working at, say, Ericsson, then you have all the resources, money, and it's a big challenge. But being a very good project leader in a research institute in collaboration with other companies, many companies in a European scale, that is something else. It's a skill set that is not that sort of easy to find. it's really difficult also to develop this kind of skill set. So we must be very careful of finding these persons. It's really, really important. So this is the science areas that we're really focusing on, and here is the applications areas where we are really sort of understanding. You see here we have health and education suddenly popping up. And that is due to the digitalization. So in Sweden, for example, Stockholm is growing like this. Now they're building a new hospital and removing the old one. In the new hospital, it's fewer beds than it was in the old hospital. What is the impact of that? Impact is, of course, that you push health out into where people live, healthcare. And then you need technology, services, solutions, etc. So, and that is an extremely driving force right now. So we were into project like chronic pneumonia. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And into that project, and then we're working together with patient organization, a number of different clinics at hospitals. We're looking at working together with suppliers of technology, and we're sitting in the middle with our competence and the ability to integrate. And there we are important. And now I'm not saying like 6 are important. We are important in that case. But in that type of cases, we will be very important because we are a neutral actor, and we have trust with our partners, and then we can drive change. And I think it's so important that we take a role in the transformation of society. If we look at opportunities, like just a list out of my memory, if you look at, for example, customer value, what we see today is that normally we end with have done this pre-study, we have written a report, maybe built a demonstrator. But in the future, the companies requires from us, can you please do the next step as well? So we get in close collaboration with different and various consultancy firm or development firms that we can start to understand us very well and take this sort of demonstrators and make them into working product to shorten down the time from idea to product or services. And this is getting more and more important. We still have to focus on research, be good in research. So even if we move into the market much more, we still have the base in research. So this is a balance we have all the time, and it's a challenge for us as manager, leaders, etc. And I think that managers, we will not see so many managers in the future. We will see leaders. It's required that we have leaders. And that is something changing. And if we look at the society in Sweden anyway today, what's happening, it's a very dynamic, as I said, both in industry and in society. What are people doing then? They try to find some place to really, I'm really stuck here and I will not let it go. So, and at the same time, the need for finding solution that integrates different competences is so high. But the opposite is happening, that people get stuck in their holes, saying, I don't move, because this change is dangerous. So we have to work with that. And that is, for us as leaders, so important to stimulate that, to find solutions. Recruitment is something that I'm working with, of course, daily, and I think you also do that. What we see in Sweden anyway, we are like 35 nationalities in my research institute. We recruit globally. We have had a lot of people coming from Southern Europe when we had this really bad economy. So we see this, that you lose a lot of good people that move to the northern part because we have had a better economy now for a while. But what we see also that is really important is that we see that many people we recruit, and then you ask, why are you coming to us? Then they say, we have looked at your alumni. People that has been working for you, what are they doing now? And then they especially look at what people have been doing in this kind of spin-offs. So you have done a spin-off, you have sold it, and now you have a nice position in Silicon Valley or wherever. That is so important to take care of the alumni, the success of the alumni for recruitment. And it's of course obvious, but sometimes you forgot that. So if we look at the spin-offs we have, I mean, it's not that, but it's always, I mean, 99% of our results go direct to our partners and customers. But the rest, we create companies. So we are, I mean, like a quite small research institute, but still, we have some quite good companies, and we have sold some really good companies also to big companies. Now I'm coming to the conclusion. I think digitalization is a force, as you said. The job market will change, and it's so fast right now. And what we see is the number of jobs in industry is going down all the time, and of course we have to work with efficiency, etc., and all that stuff. But it will change. But we also see in the sharing economy a lot of opportunities coming up now, where small companies can start to really act. So what we will see in the future, I think, much more small companies that are on a much more dynamic area. And I think many of us have kids here. I have quite a lot of kids, and you think about what are the skill set they should have when they go out and start to work. How should we prepare them in a really good way for the future? And I think it's about sort of see opportunities, problem solving, handle situations, networks, etc. I don't think that, as it has been in Sweden now for a while, when you go back and look at this PISA stuff and saying, it's so important that you're able to do this, solve this kind of mathematical problems that everyone has solved before. It's another skill set, but we must see that. The welfare system is under, and social cohesion under high pressure right now. And we see that in Europe. We see that when this refugee crisis is coming now, that we have a tough challenge. But if we can handle that, we have an extremely opportunity. New policies and leadership is required. It's not about this kind of society we are in right now with some kind of audit society that, I mean, people get scared of doing wrong instead of sort of being able to say, okay, I will do it, I can do it. Instead of say, no, I do everything correct according to some standards. This is not the way. And there, I think, research institute and university can and must play an important role in this transformation. And I will end with competence. 3 weeks ago, we said yes, or a couple of months ago, we said yes to a little kid coming to do his practice at 6. He was 14 years old. He should be at the workplace for 3 days. And I took care of this. And this guy, he's a smart young kid, 14 years old. And what should we put him on? And then I asked him, what are you really good at? I'm really good at gaming, he told me. Not surprising. But he showed up that he was one of the 1% best in this game, League of Legends. So he's really good in that. And he has spent, I suppose, many thousand hours on playing LOL, as they say in Sweden. And then we put him into a project where we had a need of gamification. And then he said, what is gamification? I said, the first thing you should check up is, what is gamification? So he, of course, directly on Google, he found out what gamification was. And now you should help this project to implement a ranking incentive system for this application. In these 3 days, when he left on Friday, he had made the implementation specification for this. So he took his enormous competence and put it into a context where we needed it, and then value was created. And he was a gamer. So competence today has no value if it's not in a context where it's valued. And I think it was such a cool story. So when you look at your kids next time, or grandkids, when they're sitting playing, what are they creating? What do they learn? So that was what I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor and also a pleasure to be here today and talk to you a little about our experience as an interface institute. And I hope that all of you know what Fraunhofer is. Fraunhofer is a research organization in Germany dedicated to applied research with some 66 institutes all over Germany, some 24,000 staff members and a budget of some 2 billion euros. So we are rather big, but size is no value in itself, and we are big simply because Germany decided to have all the applied research in one organization, and Germany is a big country. If, for instance, you compare Fraunhofer to our sister organization, TNO in the Netherlands, and you simply divide the size of that organization by the overall economy volume, you find out that the TNO in relation to the national economy is bigger than Fraunhofer, or in other words, the number of applied researchers per capita is much is even higher. 2.5 is the value in the Netherlands than compared to Germany. Now, finding the exact form of an interface institute is something like the holy grail for any politician involved in research policies or innovation policies, because it's common, it is consensus that it requires extra efforts to bridge the innovation gap, or this valley of death, as it's sometimes called, between universities that perform scientific research and companies that in the end create new products for the market. And it's by no means clear that you need interface institutes to really bridge this gap. This is really a tradition that has developed in different countries in different ways. There are some countries where you have very strong tradition that universities do a lot in this area, like the British system, the United States system. There's other systems where companies themselves work in this gap. Now, if you, for instance, look at some 100 years ago into Germany, you would find out that in chemistry and in the optics, the forefront of science was defined in the research labs of companies, of the optical branches on chemistry. So that's also a tradition. Then you have all sorts of consortia, public-private partnerships, but there's one species which is called RTO, Research and Technology Organizations, which is characterized as an independent, dedicated organization which sits in the middle of this valley of death and tries to help university research getting into companies or doing this by themselves. And these RTO species, there's even an organization in Europe where several of these, some 400 of these institutions are combined. And if you look at their working model, you find out that it's very, very similar on a core scale. It's always 3 different areas of activities that these RTOs work on. You have one part where these institutions are concerned with competence building. This is typically funded with base funding or core funding that these institutions get from the government, sometimes from the federal or the state government, or a mixture of that. And then there's a middle part where then, based on these competencies, technologies are developed, typically already in connection and in cooperation with companies. And this is typically then funded by public or private competitive funds. That's the middle part. And then if you move up to the more applied stuff, then everybody talks about diffusion and dissemination, and a major part of that is then funded by direct contract research with industry. So this is a more or less typical structure. And if you look at least at the larger organizations like Fraunhofer or the TNO, which I already mentioned, or the VTT in Finland, you find out that also the funding mixture is more or less similar. All of these major companies have roughly 1/3 of their overall turnover funded from core funding or basic funding, as we call it. And this typical mixture is also what we call the Fraunhofer model in our case. So we have roughly this 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 model. 1/3 of our activities is funded with basic funding, and that is needed to ensure the continuity of scientific excellence. Then we have these public projects from national or state governments or from the European Union, and they serve to do pre-competitive research in networks with industry. So this serves also as a tool to build networks. And then in the end, we are ready then for the direct innovation push, where we work with industry in bilateral contracts. So Fraunhofer is one of those typical organizations dedicated, standalone organizations dedicated to bridging this gap. But I believe that our success is really based on the fact that we take these two interfaces, the interface to the academia, to the university world, and to the companies, really serious. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So we have a strong integration with academia, and we do professional R&D services for industry. And that's always needed in science. We have very simple rules. We have autonomous institutes, and so I think this works rather well. Now to this one, and I come now to this one interface with universities. What do I mean with being serious in cooperation with universities? We have one trick, I would say, or one major element in working with universities, and that is that we get an institutional integration by dual appointment. Every institute's director in Fraunhofer is at the same time a full professor at university. And that means not only being a professor and doing a little teaching, but I guess all of our institute's directors have a university institute as well, and live and work in both worlds, so that they do the translation within their one single head. And that's really then the source for a really this strong integration. And of course, this is of benefit to both organizations. For the Fraunhofer Institute, we do get access to extra basic research. If we work with other colleagues as well, we are able to recruit junior scientists or students, and we also create opportunities for our employees to gain academic qualifications, like going for a PhD or habilitation, as we have it in Germany. And on the other hand, for the university side, it's also a benefit because this strong connection allows you to cooperate in industry-oriented projects. It allows also to integrate practical aspects, experience from real-world projects into the curricula of the university. And also typically the equipment that a Fraunhofer Institute can afford is more on the high-end side, or is even is just in size bigger and much more, and so that helps also. Now the other side, being serious about this translation into industry, from my point of view, is given in the fact that we do this real research contract with industry. So it's not just working together in publicly funded projects, but what we do is that we really define together with industry research topics, and we perform research services that are paid for by industry. So these are this contract research with industry. We have roughly 6,000 customers, 600 million revenues from these bilateral contracts. And perhaps it's interesting to see that we work basically for all sizes of companies, particularly for very small companies like SMEs. 60% of our customers are these small companies, and then 40 are the larger ones, and the big corporation, that's some 10% of our customers. And of course, the larger corporations, we work with them in larger contracts. So if you just look at the revenues for the larger corporations, it's a bit more than 40% of the revenues, large enterprises 30%, but almost 1/3 is with small and medium-sized companies. So I believe that this dedication to real bilateral contract research is a major characterization of any dedicated interface research or RTO research technology organization. But of course, it's not the only transfer channel that is valid and that is being supported. I've listed here other channels as well. You see these industry projects again, but of course we also have income from licensing, where you know perhaps that we were lucky to be the organization that invented the MP3 audio coding standard, and we do get some licensing revenues from that, but also from other fields. Of course, we also do spin-offs, as we heard here, some 16 spin-offs, typically between 15 and 20 per year, and we have a large portfolio. Meanwhile, sometimes we also have equity investments or exits where we get some results. But the most important knowledge transfer from my point of view is that all our employees, we have a high turnover rate. So each year, some 800 well-trained researchers leave Fraunhofer institutes and typically go into industry. So we have these fixed-term contracts that typically they work with Fraunhofer for 5 to 7 years and then move on to find good jobs in industry. And this is really, from my point of view, one of the most important transfer paths as well. We also have a Fraunhofer Academy where we do further training with other people. We have a couple of Fraunhofer institutes also abroad. One of the first ones in Europe that we founded was here in Portugal with the help of several people here in the room. And it's just across the street there and has been very successful in recent years. It has been around now for, I guess, 7 years. And I also have tried to see a little what the impact of this institute is. We have something like 100 co-workers now. And just if you look at the support that this institute gives to industry, then we find out that the focus is on, as it should be, on Portuguese industry. So 66%, 2/3 of the contract research that we do is with Portuguese companies, a smaller fraction with German companies, and the rest is international. You see the Netherlands, company from the Netherlands or United States here. So we are really proud that this entity here is now really globally active and has a strong local impact here in Portugal, but does also connect with German companies, in particular in European Union projects. Well, I told you about the essence of working together with institutions, with universities. So I think we are also proud here in Portugal to make the statement that our local partnerships are essential for our success. So first of all, the University of Oporto, which I call a constitutional cooperation. This is this sort of cooperation that we have at any institute in Germany. Dirk Elias, our director here, is also a professor at your university. So this is constitutional, and it's very important that we have this strong cooperation. But of course, we also cooperate with other partners, particularly with INESC TEC. Fraunhofer has been cooperating with you, I guess, since the beginning. The IPA, the Institute for Production Technology in Stuttgart, was very active. We have been cooperating in the manufacture domain in the EU, but we have also established quite some strategic fields of cooperation here with the Fraunhofer Center in Porto, so thank you very much for that. Now, this was my brief overview of Fraunhofer. I have a strategic outlook. Just looking at the past, as you did, Fraunhofer is 66 years of research dedicated to the future. INESC TEC is 30 years as a forefront interface institute. Fraunhofer Portugal, 7 years of remarkable technology made in Portugal. That's their slogan. So that's combined more than 100 years of experience for many years of future partnerships towards excellence in innovation. Happy anniversary to you, and thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to share with you some ideas related to my institute, that is ETIA-CNR. ETIA-CNR is one of the institutes of National Research Council of Italy, and is actually the only institute that works directly on factories. So the core of the institute is factories. And in fact, we share a lot of cooperation with INESC TEC, and we have a lot of European projects together. We have done a lot of research together, and we're still working together. So just very quickly some figures, but then I would like to go to some of the contents maybe it's important to share. Well, the institute is a nationwide institute, so as all the CNR institute has different locations. So in our case, we have a location in Milano, which is the headquarters. Then we have a location in Lecco, in Vigevano, and in Bari. And in Rome is the headquarters of the whole CNR. The CNR itself is the biggest research organization in Italy. So it's around 8,000 researchers altogether. This is just to give some figures. We are around 100 people working in research, and we are deeply involved in research projects. We have 17 European projects running, 20 national projects, 6 regional projects, and 4 main industrial contracts. As you see, then there are a lot of small contracts, obviously. As you see, the share is, let's say, 1/4 private, 1/4 regional, and the other half is between EU and national programs, with EU having the bigger percentage. The revenues is 100 kilo euro per person per year in terms of funding coming from research, which is a reasonable, let's say, figure compared to European standards. We have a very strong cooperation with different institutes and companies and research centers around Europe. All the dots you see here are basically projects that we are running together. So we have also, obviously, strong cooperation with INESC TEC, as I said, but as you see, is a quite wide network of cooperation, which I think is one of the strengths of the Institute, by the way, as it was mentioned before in the previous talk. So let's go to the vision, mission, strategy of the Institute, because I think that this could be something that we could maybe share in terms of model. So in terms of vision, we started from the mega trends. So we say, okay, what is going to happen in the world, and what are the impact in terms of manufacturing, because we are dealing with mainly manufacturing, right? So we see demographic change, climate change, faster technological development, resource scarcity, new emerging markets. All these trends are affecting manufacturing quite heavily. So then we dedicated some attention to understand how this is going to happen. And we realized that we have a lot of challenges for European manufacturing sector. Some of them have been presented in the previous talk, in the first talk. So the fact that products evolve faster and faster, so the production system have to evolve also faster, to be adaptable, to co-evolve with the products. Also, we need to have high-performance production system. This is clear because we need to compete worldwide level, so we need to be productive, zero defect, and so on. We need to consider supply chains and business models, because it's not possible just to produce a single item in a single factory, but you have to consider the network and the supply chains. And these are becoming competitive factors which are very, very strong and important. Also, we think that we can think about new products for the societal challenges. Actually, in Europe, we are quite advanced in thinking about societal challenges, more advanced than other parts in the world. So what we can do is we can take advantage of this fact and try to create new products that eventually we can sell all over the world. So new products for societal challenges. For instance, aging population will require a lot of new products, and we need to produce them. And we need to be at the forefront of this production. We also have the goal of putting the people at the center. Italy doesn't have resources, basically. It doesn't have gas, it doesn't have material, it doesn't have anything in terms of resources. So the only resource we have is the people, the genius, the capability of working, the capability of innovating. So the central role of the people is clearly a key factor of success for Italy, so we want to really work in that direction. Also, we want to innovate the competencies of the people that are working in manufacturing, because it was already said before, there are a lot of new things going on, and if you want to continue to be competitive in manufacturing, you need to have people that understand a lot of new things that in the past were not necessary. Also, the other point is that we want to really work on the sustainability of factories. We think that this is going to be a key factor of success for the future. So this is going to be something where Italy needs to invest a lot. You have to remember that Italy, together with Germany, let's say after Germany, is the second producer of machine tools in the world, in Europe, sorry, and one of the major producers, third or fourth, depending on the type of machine tool. This means that if we create sustainable factories or sustainable machine tools, this is not good only for Italy. They will be using these machines all over the world. So if they pollute less, if they use less energy, if they're more user-friendly, if they are using the capability of the people, this will happen all over the world. So that's why we think this is a key factor for Italy and for Europe in general. Obviously, the key point is this interface, combined research innovation. Okay, so I don't want to go into the details. We clearly have a mission that tries to put together the fact that we want to combine all these things, but also we want to do that in the area of factories. So our core is factories, okay? And we can divide this mission in three main areas. So research, applied research mainly, research innovation, training. So we are working on this teaching factory paradigm, and road mapping. Road mapping is a very critical activity because you cannot work in these two areas if you don't do really this area. Road mapping is very important because you have to set up the field in which you will compete. If you are not participating in setting up the field, your competition is not going to be very strong. That's why our institute is very much involved in road mapping. So in fact, we are working on research, development, innovation, education, training, and road mapping. Road mapping at all the levels. So for instance, at European level, we are involved in EFRA, we are involved in ManuFuture. Actually, we have been among the first that launched this platform. But at national level, we created Intelligent Factories, which is an Italian platform on manufacturing that has been recognized by the Ministry of University and Research and also by the Ministry of Industry. So now we are the only private part that deals with the ministries in terms of factories. We have a regional cluster, Intelligent Factory, in Lombardy, where we have the headquarters. And also we have a flagship project, Factories of the Future, Italy. So we have done a lot of work in road mapping. We obviously have a lot of research activities. We have domains. I don't go in the details of the domains, but as you may imagine, we want to work in manufacturing, so we need all the enabling technologies that are required in a factory. So here we have different research groups. They own the knowledge related to these enabling technologies. What I will explain later is that all these groups that own different enabling technologies are then combined together in pilot plants, in pilot factories, which is, let's say, at the core of our strategy. And then education and training. Again, education and training is a way to cooperate with university as well. So we support universities, for instance, in PhD programs. So for instance, in the last 3 years, we have launched 15 grants for PhD students, all paid by our institute. We have research activities for graduate people, so we use our labs for students that want to come to use and work maybe for their thesis. We have education projects like Leonardo da Vinci, Marie Curie, so we are involved in these projects together with universities. And also, we are working on this paradigm of teaching factoring, especially in the area of the kick that we hopefully will present at the next call on added value manufacturing. So, our strategy, in fact, puts the pilot plants or pilot factory at the center. And our idea is that if you want to work in manufacturing, you need to know all the different levels. You cannot just work at the top level. You cannot just work at the component level. You need to integrate. So you need to have a critical mass that allows you to have the various levels. Otherwise, you're not talking about factories. You're talking about specific disciplines. So this is the point. So we want to combine the levels. We want to be practical. We want to be very close to reality. We want to be close to companies. And that's why we decided to combine all this knowledge that we have in the Institute in what we call pilot plants. And we created 4 of them. A macro factory, where we produce products, in this case, shoes. A micro factory, where we produce micro products. And a deproduction factory, where we disassemble and we reuse material. And digital factory, which is in the digital work, virtual manufacturing, basically. Okay, so I won't go in all the details, but maybe I'll cover one of them, the deproduction factory, just to give you the flavor of what we mean by a factory of this type. So the idea is that, okay, once you have a product at the end of life, or maybe even after a few years, you want to recover something of this product. But normally you think about recovering material, which is good. But maybe you do more, you can do more. You can recover functionalities. So functionalities is a very important issue because if you recover functionality, you gain most of the value of a product. If you just regain material or energy, you gain only a small portion of the value of the product. So our idea is that you should work on functionalities and try to gain as much as possible from the value of the product, maybe at the end of life or maybe after a few years of life. So you want to reuse components, you want to refurbish components, and then you maybe want to recover material and bring back all this to manufacturing. So the idea is that in the future you will have manufacturing and or demanufacturing. So the idea is that if this is just a small portion, let's say 10% of the whole manufacturing in Europe, this means a lot. This is a lot of new companies and a lot of new jobs. This is the important part. Also, it's good for the environment. So we think that this is a very strategical issue, but the problem is it doesn't happen. So it's clear, it's obvious, we need to do that, but it doesn't happen. Why? Because it's very complex. It's very complex to put together all the technologies, all the business models, all the logistics. So we said, okay, maybe it's time for a research organization to do that, to create a pilot plant where people can see with real machines, with real environment, that things can work. We can train people, and then eventually companies will pick it up. So this is the idea. We've concentrated on mechatronic products because they are growing. They are very important in our products. In cars, for instance, they are continuously growing in terms of weight or in terms of value everywhere. But also in other products, obviously, all the appliances have a lot of mechatronics. So what we did, we created a plant with 3 cells. Cell 1 is for disassembly mechanical parts and reassembly the mechanical parts. Cell 2 is for disassembling and reassembling the electronic part. And cell 3 is for shredding and separation of materials so that you can regain material. So the idea is that if it's possible, you want to disassemble products and regain the functions, mechanical parts, or regain the function from the electronic part. But if you cannot do that, you want at least to regain the material. So this is the main idea. So the factory itself is based on real machines, full size. I mean, they are machines that you can buy and use in a company. And this is very important because if you want to convince the companies, you need to have real machines and you must be able to work on real products, otherwise they don't follow you. Okay, so, but obviously there are a lot of research themes that you need to work on in order to make it possible, and this is good because this means that you can create a new knowledge, you can create patents, you can create a lot of activities that are good for research institutions. So these are some pictures of this facility. As you see, there are full-scale robots. We have different machines to test the circuits, the electronic circuits, to replace components. This is a tester, for instance. This is a full-scale machine, as you see, right? Okay, shredding and separation is the third cell. So maybe just to give you an idea, this is a very short video. Shows, for instance, the replacement of the electronic components in a board where you want to reshape the board or upgrade the functions, for instance, or fix problems in the board and so on and so forth. And then you see here what happens if the board is not used anymore. So you want to regain the material. So you shred and separate the material. This is mechanical separation, and what you get is very good quality in terms of material, like 95% pure. Then you need chemical process to have a completely pure material. But this material is already can be sold in the market because it's already pure enough that has a value. Okay, so this is just to give the idea that what we want to do is to be able to show that all the competencies can be used to create a real factory. So IT competencies, mechanical competencies, competencies on processes, competencies on quality, all these competencies are there. All the groups participate in that. So this is a way to combine the effort. And by the way, this is a very critical point because universities normally separate the competencies. This is, I mean, I am a professor in university, so at least in Italy, what happens is that each professor is working on a certain competence. What is good in the institute is that you can combine competencies. You can hire people from different competencies to work on a specific project. And if you create these factories, you can really combine the competencies because you have a very demanding goal that you want to reach. If it doesn't work, you see it doesn't work, right? So it's a very good way to have all the people work together for a very difficult task. And something that cannot be done also in companies because it's too far ahead and it's too difficult to start. So we think that really this is the way where, you know, an institute can work and provide some benefit for the society. Okay, so we have, as in the same fashion, other pilot plants. This is for personalized goods. This is the picture of the plant. As you see, they are kind of real scale. Obviously, we don't want to make a mass production. We want to show that it's possible. It's not a production company. Microfactory is the same thing. So, okay, so this is the main idea. Obviously, this is not only good to show, but it's also good to teach. That's why we are speaking about teaching factory, because you can bring young people or also experienced people in this environment so that they can try and they can improve their knowledge by doing things and by understanding much better how to make things work. So we think that the teaching factory is not based on things that you could learn in a class or in a book. It's something that if you don't try, you don't learn. And that's why you need this teaching factory. So this is our idea of combining, you know, the research and also teaching together. And also is our way of cooperating with university because we bring all the competencies that are separate in the same environment. Everybody that wants to use this plant is free to use it. Obviously, we need to cooperate on some activities, but it's possible. So this is a way to really have a strong cooperation with the university. It's also a good way to have a cooperation with industry because companies see that it's possible and ask normally not for the whole plant, but for specific areas. Is a good start. so we can cooperate with them in specific activities. So, okay, this is more or less just a very short overview of our philosophy and in activities and research. Thank you very much.